Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media. All the disinformation and misinformation, we want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening, and as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yes, welcome to Total Truth Show, episode 76, The Truth About Breaking Up with Fear. I love this title, and a huge welcome to all of you joining us live. My amazing co-host, of course, Ken Kleinberg. How are you today?
I am doing amazing, just simply amazing.
Fantastic. And we have the amazing Carolyn Murphy with us, who is joining us all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. A little bit about our special guest today before we have a chat with her about this very exciting topic. She is a mind shift coach, a mental health influencer. She's the CEO and founder of Firm Foundations, the author of God, Why Did You Save Me? And she's also got her own podcast, which is the Black Mental Health Forum podcast. And she hosts the Transitioning from Trauma Support Group and is a huge mental health advocate as well. Welcome, Carolyn.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come on your podcast, and let's discuss the truth about breaking up with fear.
Yeah, I love this topic, Carolyn. Thank you so much. And what an interesting story I'm sure you have. I really love the title of your book, God, Why Did You Save Me? Please share. Save you from what?
Well, the title actually stems from childhood trauma. By the time I was 8 years old, I'd lost 3 siblings. So there were 2 siblings that perished in a house fire. Prior to that, my prayer was, Lord, just let me die in my sleep, because my history was just too bad for me to live it out. So I just my nightly prayer was, Lord, just let me die in my sleep. And so once my siblings perished in the fire, the prayer stopped, and I began to ask God, why did he save me? But it's actually from the fire. So that's the purpose of the name of the book. It wasn't soul salvation or anything like that.
Wow. So please share what happened with this fire, and how did you manage to escape? Where was it? What were the circumstances?
Well, we lived in a small wooden house. And the little space heater was too close to the bed, and it caught the covering. And so the 2 that perished in the fire, they were in the back bedroom, where I was up front with the newborn baby. And but my middle sister woke me up and said the house was on fire. So I jumped up and ran out of the house to let somebody know that the house was on fire. And by the time I came back around, the house was ablaze.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that must have been absolutely traumatic for you. So after you went through a period of not wanting to be here, how did you pull yourself out of that trauma?
Well, I didn't discover therapy or counseling until I was actually in college. So I lived through a period of feeling unwanted, unloved, and unheard. I was born during a time where children were seen and not heard. So I was already muzzled with that. My lived experience is molestation and rape. So through that, um, depression and anxiety and becoming a workaholic and becoming a perfectionist all stemmed out of that. So the life, when you have unresolved trauma, they call it, well, I call it living a life of Russian roulette because
Mhm.
hurt people hurt other people.
Hmm.
Yes.
And so, but the term is, uh, oh gosh, is, it just escaped me. Trauma response. You live in a
Uh-huh.
trauma response.
Right.
So yeah. So that was my whole childhood as far as young adult as well. And the therapy, even though I was introduced to it, I didn't do it consistently because the only time I experienced it was when I was at college. But then my first year of college, became pregnant with my oldest son and I ended up leaving school. So therapy did not happen for me again until years and years later.
And so how many siblings did you have, and where were your parents when all this happened?
Well, I'm the oldest of six children. So
Oh,
three are deceased. And so later on, once I got into my early 40s, that's when I sensed that my mom was dealing with her own trauma. So because of that, she was dealing with it through alcoholism.
oh, must have been absolutely. Gosh, I mean, you hear of people losing everything in a fire when they say everything, like their possessions, but actually losing family members, three family members in one fire. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine what that would have been like for you, and the journey of recovery. And you became a workaholic and perfectionist. That's really interesting because I've certainly been like that too. I've been a workaholic, I've been a perfectionist, and I know I've had trauma and abuse, etc., in my past as well. So why is it, do you think, that people who have trauma sometimes do tend to become workaholics or become perfectionists?
Well, the thing is I know for me, uh, control is a big thing. And so we try to make everything look like, or for me, I wore a mask. So my mask was the smiling face. So people who looked at me, they didn't know that I was enduring the things that I was enduring. And so you I took on the spirit of control, trying to control everything around me. Um, and so when you live in traumatic experiences like that, your senses are always heightened. So it was bad. It was really bad. So um, trying to control everything, which ends up backfiring on you mentally and physically.
Mm, yeah, wow. Um, Gosh, I'm still in shock from what you've said. I mean, I'm just trying to picture what that would have been like. Yeah, gosh, the things we take for granted, right? Like I often think there's people out there wondering what shoes to wear, but there's people with no feet, right?
Mhm.
And we often don't think about this. It's so easy for a lot of people to get into whinge mode. I say whinge mode because we've been conditioned to live in drama, And we've been conditioned not to speak up or step up about what matters to us in life, and even not to live an empowered life, particularly in Australia. It's all about rise to the middle here in Australia. In America, it's a bit more, championing the good cause. You can do it and you can become great in America. However, then usually when people get to the top, they just tear them down anyway, right? So one way or another, generally you're going to have, people out there who aren't going to want to see you be successful. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to how do you choose to do life, and what are you going to do with this amazing miracle of life, this opportunity you've been given. You're 1 in a billion just by being born, I often say. You beat a billion swimmers to get to the finish line, depending how excited your parents were, of course, at the time. It's between 400 million and 1.2 billion swimmers, but let's not get too detailed right here. But you get the idea, right? We are extraordinary. We're here for a reason. And I do believe everything happens for us, not to us. And as much as sometimes it's hard to understand why these tragedies happen sometimes, how have you sort of turned this into a way that you have now dealt with it and even become empowered to help others with that now, Carolyn, with that experience?
Well, the biggest thing for me was cultivating my relationship with the Lord. I've always, because I went to my grandmother raised me. Because when my parents were 16 when I was born. So, children don't know how to raise babies. So my grandmother raised me. So I have an old soul. So I went to church with my grandmother. I woke up every morning, early in the morning, with her on her knees praying. Her favorite passage was John 14, 1-5, which is now my favorite passage. And so naturally, I just gravitated towards that. And I would go to church with her. And so when I finally got to the end of me, after trying to control everything, trying to control everybody, nothing working out, finally, because I was already dealing with suicidal thoughts, never tried anything. Because when you deal with traumatic events, you gravitate towards things or people to try to help you feel better in the moment. But those things, you become addicted to them, and then those things turn on you. And so for me, I never wanted to drink. I never wanted to smoke. So my Band-Aid was toxic relationships, in and out of toxic relationships.
Oh, yes, I've had a few of those too, actually. Yeah, it sounds like we've had similar lifetimes here, Carolyn, although I haven't lost 3 siblings, but I've certainly had my fair share of trauma. I've seen a lot of animal cruelty in my time, and that's been absolutely horrible to witness. Ken, what are your thoughts around what Carolyn's been through and how she's turned it around?
Well, it's funny. I watched you muting my mic as I was opening up my Bible and flipping to the verses that you quoted. And I'm going to share those here on here. So yeah, this is what you heard, Aldwyn. You heard the pages.
I did. I heard it, and I thought, no, that's making just a bit too much background noise there. It's not going to be good on the audio when we turn this into a podcast later.
Yes, the old school turning of the pages of the Bible. I still find much comfort and pleasure reading from the real solid thing than reading from this. I mean, there's times where I'll pull up the Bible on this just for convenience, just to quickly look something up. But when it comes to my own at-home devotional times, I like having that physical book. There's just something about it. So anyhow, I'm actually going to read what she quoted there, and I'm actually going to add one more verse to it because I think this verse is, it's a very important verse. So we're actually going to read from John 14, verses 1-6. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I would have told you that I go. If it were not so, I would have told you that. Now I'm getting tongue-tied. Okay. If it were not so, I would have told you that I go to prepare. Would I have not told you that I would have gone to prepare a place for you? And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and I will take you I will take you to myself, that where I am, you will be also. And you know the way to where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not need to know where you are going, or we do not we do not know where you are going. Forgive my reading. How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, verse 6, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So Carolyn, I want you to expound on those verses. Why did that hit so powerful and hard to you? And what was your journey as you began to really latch onto everything that's going on in that passage?
Well, I come from a line of worry warts. Uh, my grandmother and mother, they worried about everything, and fear is the biggest thing that grips you. So for me, guilt and shame and fear, those were the three things that my life was consumed with. And so these these verses, specifically number one, it's letting me know, don't let my heart be troubled. Stop worrying about things. But that's easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, outside of the fact that this was my grandmother's favorite passage, this is why I loved it, because it's constantly reminding me, stop worrying about these things. The Lord has me. He's going to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are consumed with guilt and fear and shame, and you are living in trauma response, and you don't take to heart what you're reading, and that's why fear is so detrimental. Fear, the Lord gave me revelations just this year that fear are the shackles around our ankles and our wrists.
Yes.
And when you've experienced trauma, we begin to build walls, invisible walls. And later on, those walls, we call it our comfort zone. But later on, the Lord showed me that really the comfort zone turns into your prison. So you're bound in your own prison that you made because you trying to protect yourself from people who have hurt you. But we don't realize that not only are you trying to quote unquote protect yourself from the person or people that have hurt you, you're actually got walls between everybody and even the Lord. So for me, it was just, I had to get to the end of myself. And it took years to get to the end of myself.
Wow, so powerful, so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And did you know the Bible is the biggest selling book of all time, 5 billion copies plus sold. Now, this is not a sort of Christian evangelist show here. Whatever your spiritual, religious beliefs, we respect you and we honor you no matter, what your beliefs are. This is just, we're sharing our beliefs. You can either take it on board or not. I would say I'm sort of more, even though I was brought up Christian, actually Greek Orthodox background, I would say I'm more spiritual. I do believe there's one, universal energy, God, and that's a whole other discussion. And, my grandma gave me a leather-bound Bible when I was a child. And, she signed, and she had quite shaky writing back then. It wasn't long before she died, actually. And I've still got that Bible at home too. So, there are some profound verses in the Bible and so much wisdom in there that we can gain. And I just want to say a big hello and welcome to all of our people joining us on the live now. We've got Rita Rose. Hello, beautiful Rita. I just hung out with Rita down in Sydney. And big thank you to Rita because she sponsors my lipstick. She's from Red Peacock Cosmetics, as among many other things. Rita's a multi-talented individual. And people always ask me about my lipsticks, and they're 100% vegan. Check out Red Peacock Cosmetics, or connect with Rita. She's awesome. Also on Instagram, we have Rahul Rao. Good to see you there. We've got Gail Glasner's joined us. Rahul says, Happy Independence Day. Now, Independence Day was a month ago, wasn't it? I'm kind of confused why that comment's there. Is there another Independence Day I'm not aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, Rahul, well, thanks for joining us a month after Independence Day. But happy Independence Day to you too. Maybe it's a belated Independence Day. Jill Smith has joined us. Hello. Pit Stop Diagnostics has joined us. Maloney Adriano. Let us know, where are you joining us from? Those joining us on the live, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. This will also be going out on Spotify and Rumble and BitChute, our other platforms as well. Let us know, where are you joining us from right now? And now I really want to deep dive into this topic about the truth about breaking up with fear. It's almost like we have a relationship with fear. So can you explain a little bit more about why you came up with this topic title?
Well, the Holy Spirit gave me, this is my signature talk, I broke up with fear. And the topic is important because breaking up with fear allowed me to shift my focus from the problem to God. Breaking up with fear allowed me to start the journey of trusting God and believing what he says about me in the word. Breaking up with fear increased my appetite to live, because if you can remember, when I was a child, my prayer was, Lord, just let me die in my sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So once I began to shift my focus to the Lord and cultivate it, prioritize it, and now it's non-negotiable. Because a lot of times life happens and we tend to put God on the back burner. And that is something that I cannot do anymore, because he is my lifeline. So it increased my appetite to live, which is actually breathing in and breathing out, because all I was doing was existing. So the Lord showed me, when you just existing in this world, it's like you take a breath in, but you don't exhale. Breaking up with fear gave me the strength to desire to move outside of my comfort zone. It also helped me to realize that despite what happened to me, it doesn't define me or my future. And finally, breaking up with fear helped me to, it gave me my voice. It let me know that my emotions and my story mattered. That's the purpose. That's the reason why breaking up with fear is so important to me.
Beautifully said, Carolyn. Wow, I feel quite mesmerized by your voice. Even you've got a very sort of calming presence about you. You know, considering what you've been through hell and back, and yet you come across like you're just, you know, so calm and okay with everything. Like you've come to terms with, hey, this is what's happened. I can't change the past. What can I do now moving forward to have an amazing future? So what are some things that you do on a daily basis or a weekly basis, some of your practices to help you stay in that zone of breaking up with fear? Because I think, you know, as much as, you know, we can say, look, just let go of the fear. I think for all of us at different times, the fear can come up at any time. So what do you do to sort of manage that moving forward?
Well, the thing is, there's a healthy fear, and then there's the negative fear. And the negative fear is the chronic fear. That's the fear that the Lord tells us that we need to stay out of, because that fear keeps us or hinders our relationship with him. And for me, because again, when you live a life of fear, it prevents you from realizing who God really is. It keeps you from trusting his word. It keeps you from asking and seeking help, whether it's spiritually and physically. Dealing with fear or living with fear, it keeps you from even learning that you have a purpose, because you're too fearful to come out of your comfort zone to even discover it. And finally, again, the fear keeps you from actually seeking the Lord for your purpose. And so for me, again, I emphasize self-care. And it actually has to be consistent, and it has to be non-negotiable.
Mm.
And so a lot of us, especially women, we wear so many hats.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time we get to us, we're too exhausted to do anything for us. And so it's easier said than done. But if the lack of self-care causes you to end up falling into depression because your needs are not met. We're all born with a purpose, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. So when you are not walking in your purpose, you haven't discovered it and walking in your purpose, you're just like the children of Israel, how they just walked around the, the desert for 40 years. And you can recognize this because if you've been in and off of jobs, you don't stay on one job too long, in and out of relationships, you know it's a longing inside of you. And I tell people, you don't find out what your purpose is, you got to go to the creator, the one who created you.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I had to prioritize my mental health. I had to prioritize my self-care. So it was daily affirmations, speaking the word over myself, reading my word, listening to the word, because the Lord gave me years ago, I have to eat, sleep, and breathe him. And I'm like, Lord, how do you do that? Because he tells us to pray consistently, pray without ceasing. And so that's a part of my regimen. So mindfulness is my biggest self-care tool. Being in the moment. The Holy Spirit told me in 2018 to keep my anxiety down, I have to stay in the moment. Just breathe, just stay in the moment. Because if I go to the future, I know what I want to be, I know what I want to do, but then when I come back to the present, it's like, how am I going to do this? But then when I go to the past, now I'm mad because of all the bad choices I've made. So it doesn't do me good to go either way, just to stay in the present. So when you're in the present, when you remain in the present, then you practice gratitude also.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when you've gone through the type of, I had a lady tell me, tall T for the trauma. When you've experienced the type of trauma I have, if you have to get as elementary as, Lord, I thank you for my 10 toes and my 10 fingers. If you have to get that elementary, then that's what you do. Because life is not fair. It's going to beat you down. And the Lord has shown me that we know our birth date, but we don't know our death date. But that ... dash that's in the middle, you determine how you want to live that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my favorite poems is called The Dash. Actually, look that one up, and it's all about what happens between the time you're born and the time you die. And what we do know is a third of people die by the age of 65, and we know that 90% of people die with regrets. So being present in the moment is certainly one of the biggest challenges, I would say, for most people. And it's been something that, for me personally, I meditate daily. I'm constantly practicing being in the moment. And I have an ADHD brain. Apparently, I've been diagnosed ADHD, as Ken has as well, and probably many others. I mean, look, it's a label, but, I have a very overactive mind, and I'm, constantly sort of thinking about things I want to do, and I, like embracing life fully. And sometimes embracing life fully is being in the moment, right? It's not actually, it's not actually thinking about, what I could do or what's happened in the past, or, like just noticing the 60,000 thoughts we have a day. And out of those 60,000 thoughts, for most people, 98% are the exactly same thoughts we had yesterday, and 80% are negative for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And these are extraordinary statistics. So half the thing is actually just getting present to the thoughts that are going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that, Ken? What are your thoughts on these thoughts that we have?
Yeah, right. What are my thoughts on the thoughts? And then the thoughts of those thoughts. That's a real fun tongue twister there. But what I was thinking about as you were talking about fear is, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, it's not just about fear. It's the anxiety too. Fear and anxiety are literally like this together.
Mhm.
And you know what? One thing I've learned over the past few years is when you're in a state of fear, all logical thinking and critical thinking in your head literally gets blocked just
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
No matter how hard you try,
Mhm.
you cannot, and as a matter of fact, it does not occur to you to think critically or to think logically. It doesn't occur to you because you're so blocked and in that state of fear and anxiety. It literally cripples you in
Yes.
more ways than I think people realize. So, again, I
Mhm.
just want to repeat the statement I just said so it sinks into some people. When you are in a state of fear or anxiety, the entire concept of thinking logically, of critical thinking, does not occur to you
Mhm.
at all.
Mhm.
Meaning you don't even try because the whole thing has been blocked. There is no trying, there is no battling through it to try to think that way. It
Mhm.
just will not happen. You
Mhm.
will not arrive there and go, I need to figure out a way to think logically and critically through this. That will not happen when you're in the state of fear and anxiety. So, how do you get out of that? You start attaching yourself onto the same things that Carolyn was just sharing. And one more thing I will add into some of the things that Carolyn was sharing. It's interesting that we kind of started off the episode by sharing a few Bible verses. Well, I kind of want to paraphrase another section from Matthew. It was in the Sermon on the Mountain, where Jesus is talking about how, you know, not one sparrow, this little tiny bird, not one sparrow falls from the sky without the Father's knowledge, without the Father knowing. How much more are you worth than a sparrow? And therefore, how much more is He going to take care of you? Your hope and your joy and everything that you build on in your life must be centered on Him, must be built through Him. It is in that and um, relying on the foundation that you have on Him, relying on the hope He gives you, relying on the love He gives you, relying on the joy He gives you, relying on the fact that He is a sovereign God. That is where you're going to break out of that fear and anxiety and realizing how much you actually mean to Him. If not a bird falls from the sky, I would take it further. Not an insect falls, not a worm gets squashed, none of it happens outside of His
Mhm.
control and His
That's
knowing.
it. That's
And
it.
how much more valuable are you than those things? Anyway,
Yes.
there you go. I'm
Yes.
off the bandwagon now.
Yes.
Back to you, Carolyn.
Yes. And I agree with you. That is another passage that I become, coming from a worrying about everything, fearful of the unknown, fearful of rejection, fear of abandonment. I mean, I was just loaded down with fear. And I had to truly embrace these scriptures. Like you said, the thoughts that we have, I want to say it's 2 Corinthians 10:5. I want to say casting down the imaginations, casting down the thoughts that rises up against God, the
Hmm.
knowledge of God. So it God lets me know through His Word He cares about all of us, every part of us. We're mind, body, and soul. We're tripod. He cares about us. And so I had to literally talk to myself every day. God loves you. Um, the God has brought back the song, This Little Light of Mine, I'm going
Hmm.
to shine. So I found myself constantly singing that. And and so God has blessed me now. I've gotten to the point where other things was my focus. Now it's Him. I have fallen in love with the Lord, and there makes a big difference.
You know what also is just so interesting about what you shared, Carolyn? And so it was about, oh, I don't know. I mean, I launched my own brand and company back in the summer of 2020. And, I've been a Christian since 92. And it wasn't until about 8 or 9 months ago, roughly, that I began praying to God and asking Him, Lord, how can I make you more part of my brand and company? How can I include you into my brand? You know what I'm watching happen in the current time right now in real time? Because I've invited him into my brand, because I've invited him into what I do as an entrepreneur and as a business, I am watching my entire brand and what I stand for take off. I now have a boot camp with 5 people going through it. And that is amazing. And I was sharing with somebody today, I was giving them pieces of it. And, I was on a Zoom call and I was giving them pieces and just sharing, not to bring her into the boot camp because she's not my ideal client, but I was just sharing with her because I was excited. So I was showing her screen shares of different booklets that come with the boot camp and everything else. At the end of that, maybe I was sharing for probably 7-8 minutes. The boot camp is extensive and takes a lot of time for all of it. And I asked her at the end, I said, how much do you think this is worth? What would you pay for this? And it was amazing to me that she said that she would pay $1,000 for that. And my boot camp is priced at $75 right now for 3 sessions with me. And it just, so all of that to say, not to like announce my boot camp. That's not the reason why. I mean, I will talk about that at the end, but that's not the reason why I brought that up. I brought that up because I am watching God move in and through my own brand and my business in unspeakable ways. And that's because I've invited him in. And so that's also kind of speaking to what you are doing and to the audience that you have and to what you're empowering. When you invite God into what you are doing, it is amazing what begins to happen. All of a sudden, he starts directing people your way, directing people to speak to you. So, yeah.
Yes. It's awesome.
Yeah. And now faith, interestingly, we're talking a lot about faith, this issue. Now, I actually have a chapter in this book here, the book I read, volume 2. Now, this was done with an American publisher. There's 25 authors that have all written a chapter about a book that has transformed their life in some way. And I wrote about Think and Grow Rich. Now, Think and Grow Rich, one of the 13 principles of Think and Grow Rich, which has created more millionaires than any other book out there, is faith. Now, this was actually written in 1937 by Napoleon Hill. Now, I just want to read this little bit in here. This chapter 2, or the second principle. Actually, I'll give you all the principles and then I'll come back to it. So, desire is the first principle in Think and Grow Rich. Faith is second. Auto-suggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning, decision, persistence, power of the mastermind, the mystery of sex transmutation, the subconscious mind, the brain, and the sixth sense. Now, Napoleon teaches with faith, the second principle. He says faith is the cornerstone of achievement. It's a strong belief in yourself and your abilities, even in the face of adversity. And I actually wrote in here, it's just a few paragraphs. I actually put in here, when I hit rock bottom, seeing my boyfriend sleep with my best friend in front of me at age 15, I had faith that I could turn my life around. My dad always assured me, God has a plan for you. I had faith that was the case and have since learned that everything happens for me, not to me, and to enjoy the roller coaster ride of life. Embracing this principle, I learned to trust in my own potential, building a resilient mindset that was stronger than any challenges or doubts. There's a great saying that says, small challenges are not given to great souls, or great challenges are not given to small souls, right? So I do believe that when we have big challenges in life, it's like God or the universe or whatever you want to call, God energy. It's like God is saying, I have a plan for you. This is part of the greater purpose, the greater plan for your life, as to why you've been through these certain tragedies and these traumas and these challenges, because they all make you stronger. And it's all about, are we going to be the victim of our circumstances? And are we going to be, for me, why has this happened to me? Or are we going to look at these things that have happened through our life, and are we going to look at, okay, how is this happening for me? I wonder what the big purpose and the big grand scheme of things is. And often I look back at my life, I think some of the things that I thought were the worst things that ever happened ended up being blessings in disguise in some way. And it's all about our perspective, right? And that can take quite some time for some people, and it can be quite a journey. And sometimes we don't see it at the time. Sometimes we're right in the drama and with the fear of it that we don't see the other side. And I always say, like, the two biggest emotions are fear and love. I've got my little love heart here sending everyone love today. Fear and love. When we're in a love space, when we're joyful, when we're grateful, when we have peace, when we're enlightened, which are the highest vibrations in Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness. If you look up power versus force, you'll see what this is all about, this whole scale of consciousness. When we get into these higher states, these elevated, expanded states of consciousness, such as love, joy, gratitude, peace, and enlightenment, then we're not in this stuck energy of shame, guilt, fear, anger. When you're stuck, there's no movement. You've got to be able to move through, as we do with the roller coaster ride of life. You've got to be able to move through these stuck emotions, get the learnings when we come down into because we're going to go up and down. Get the learnings. The quicker you get the learnings and you look for what you can be grateful for in whatever happens, and look for the learnings, the sooner you'll be able to come out the other side and you'll see the light again. All right. Now, Carolyn, I'd love to hear from you how it's been on your roller coaster ride of life, how you've gone through that journey and come out the other side. What have been some of the biggest challenges for you sort of moving through that roller coaster ride?
Well, the challenge was for me is living in trauma response. So in and out of toxic relationships, and then spewing the same poison that was spewed on me as a child. I was actually saying the same things. We don't realize that words take root in our hearts. And as much as because I was the type of person, when you told me I wasn't going to do something, I proved to you that I was going to do it. But at the same time, those words still took root in my heart. I was living with huge amounts of self-doubt, criticism. And I mean, it was unreal. School became my safe haven. So I didn't miss any days from school. I excelled, graduated, graduated from high school, graduated valedictorian, got a full scholarship to, at that time it was Memphis State. But my first year of college, I got pregnant with my oldest son, who is now 31. I contemplated suicide, but I was just too scared to do anything. Still wished I could just go to sleep and die. I even wanted to abort my baby. But the night before I was actually going to do it, I woke up to a documentary on HBO that talked about what happens when you abort your baby. And that just tore me up. So I couldn't do it the next day. But I knew once I found that I was having a boy, I was like, Lord, I want him to look at me and be proud of me one day. And so the living the Russian roulette life that I was living, I just stopped because I wanted to love on him the way that I wasn't loved. And a lot of times you can't give what you don't have, but I tried my best to give him the love and the attention that I did not have. So I ended up having two sons. They're 5.5 years apart. And I loved on them so much. I know when they were young, they were like, Mom, I'd be glad when you get married. I loved on them so much.
Oh,
But I made sure I raised them in the opposite of how I was raised. I made sure they had a voice. I told them there's nothing that they couldn't talk to me about. But I was a single mom also. So when you are a single mom, you know, you living for right now, you living in fear, you living all kind of ways. You just trying to figure out how you're going to make it through the day. But my biggest thing was making home peaceful and fun. And so it was still, when it comes to me, I was still living in trauma response. But once they got young adults and even grown, that's when I was able to circle back around to me. And the Lord told me in 2022, it's time to go get consistent therapy. And I did for that whole year. And the next thing I know, the Holy Spirit came to me and said, now it's time to start your business, which is Firm Foundations. And I'm like, well, at first it was named Getting in Touch with Me. That was my little slick way of putting mental health in the face of people. But I went through a transformation, and so did the business. And that's why it's called Firm Foundations, because when you experience trauma, you don't have a firm foundation, if you have a foundation at all. So that's my goal, is to help other women who are already on their journey to continue to solidify their foundation.
amazing. And when you did that 1 year of work, what did you actually go through? What were the details of how did that work, that 1 year of sort of therapy or, transformation that you had there?
Well, I mean, you're facing your fears. You're facing your fears. You're actually, you're confronted with the words that you even think and speak about yourself. And that's why I tell people now, trauma is a big gaping wound. But we try to put band-aids on it. And when you have a big gaping wound that you're bleeding out of, band-aids doesn't help it. You're bleeding all over yourself as well as other people. So the wound has to be tended to. And I tell anybody, when you're dealing with trauma, you should not deal with that without a mental health professional, counselor, therapist. I don't care who you are. So I tell people Jesus plus therapy equals total and complete healing. So I had to face a lot of fears. I had to face the things that my thought patterns, I had to face that. So it's coming, what they say, coming into realization or acknowledging what you've been dealing with, what you've been thinking about, what you've been saying about your own self. And that's a hard thing to do. And that's one of the things I also advocate is journaling. When you can write those things down, your thoughts, you sit on in black and white. That's almost hard to do, but you have to do it. If you want to get to the other side of that mountain, you got to go through it. You got to do the work. So it was a lot of days of crying.
Yeah, I love that. So with the journaling, what was your method of journaling? Because people have many different ways they go about that.
Well, for me, journaling was very inconsistent, because like you, my mind was just always going. And I just could not keep up with my own mind trying to write the stuff down. So my walking became my biggest tool, being mindfulness walking and praying while I'm walking and practicing gratitude. So I did just regular journaling, just getting a notebook and writing, Dear God, today was a hard day. Help me to be better tomorrow. It wasn't any of the elaborate stuff that's out there now. But my biggest thing was mindfulness.
What helps me with stuff like that? So I have moments like that too, when I'm trying to journal or write stuff down or remember things. The mind's all over the place. And you're in the middle of writing down a powerful thought that you had or a sentence, and you get 3/4 of the way through it and you don't remember what the ending was. And it's like, dang it. So what I've actually found that's actually a little bit more useful for me, and it so that the losing of the thought doesn't happen as often anymore, is so when I have one of those moments and I'm just like, I've got an aha moment, you know, the Lord's speaking to me, there's clarity coming. It's like maybe something that's inspiring, maybe it's something he wants me to do in my business. So now what I do is I actually take my phone and I pull up recording memo and I just record. Sometimes I pull it up and I stick my phone in the little mount in the car on my way to the gym, and I just speak what's on my mind, and I just let it go, you know, and I just speak, and then I listen to the recording later, you know. So I found that that's actually way more effective than trying to write things down. Now, I have my moments where I write stuff down and I'm just kind of like on a roll and I'm just like going, sure, I have those moments and it feels good. But a lot of times I'm using, you know, recording. And even now, as I'm creating my content, when I'm creating content and I'm like, even with, so Aldwyn, like with the boot camp, a lot of the booklets, there's a lot of portions in the booklet that I used voice to text to put that in there. So that's why, as I'm going through the boot camp, I'm finding errors, typo errors, because voice to text thinks that I'm saying the word and when I'm saying the word in. And so you've got those things. But at least voice to text, when I'm producing content especially, that has also allowed me to be able to finish my thoughts and to get the power of what I want to say out there rather than typing. Because sometimes I find the same thing with typing. I'll get 3/4 of the way through it and I've lost the second part of what I want to say. And I'm like, dang it. So yeah, those are some of the ways that I've kind of like broken through some of those challenges.
Yeah, and that's great. And I think, you know, people need to use whatever's going to be best for them, what's going to work for them. There's tools like Otter out there where you can go voice to text and other tools that could be good for that. However, I've also heard it's very powerful when you put pen to paper. And also, you know, I've heard of people saying when you journal, just don't think about just whatever comes to mind, just write it down. Don't judge what you've written. And that's often the challenge for people, is that we look at what we've written and then we sort of judge ourselves. Oh, no, that's not right. Or we contradict ourselves or whatever, rather than just brain dumping whatever we're thinking at the time and just letting it all out. And some people even sort of rip pages out and burn it and whatever and just let it go, you know, let go of what it just as a way of release. So I do like the idea personally. I like to actually write down, you know, it's like when my cat died, Tiger, my cat died at 16 and a half last year. And when my cat died, I wrote out my thoughts to the cat, and it really helped me to sort of get over the grief of, you know, then let go of my beautiful cat and be grateful for the 15 years we had together. You know, so I guess whatever's going to work for people to, you know, to help let go of fear or to help break up with fear. And it's interesting, you know, we with this topic, how to break up with fear, or the truth about breaking up with fear. It's interesting. A lot of people are in relationships where they have a lot of fear, you know, and it might be breaking up with a person, but actually the reason you don't want to break up, maybe you have fear of leaving that person, but then there could be a situation too when you're in that relationship and you have fear of also being in the relationship. So Carolyn, you mentioned that you've had some relationships that haven't gone so well. Can you discuss this topic a little bit around relationships and how that relates to relationships as well? Or it could be friendships rather than, you know, the truth about breaking up with fear, how that relates to people in relationships or people who are even in friendships where they might have some fear around people that they've been hanging out with, but they maybe have fear of letting go in some way.
Well, when fear dominates your life, you don't have authentic relationships. I know for me, I will only let you get so close to me. I wouldn't let you get to my heart because I'm looking at you out the side of my eyes like, okay, are you going to say something or do something like everybody else has done? I'm already prejudging you. So you don't have authentic relationships, whether it's friendship or romantic. And so for me, because of being molested and being later on raped, I didn't, I was a good girl that loved bad boys. So so I was acting like a boy. You know, I didn't truly like the guys. It was ridiculous. When I say hurt people, I really mean it. And so, just like some guys are womanizers, I was a manizer. So I only saw them for what they could give me. And so, when that's what I did in my relationship. Now, my friendships, there were far few in between when it come to friends with girls or other girls. Um, I was closer to guys. I would rather have a friend guy than a girlfriend. I don't know why that was, but I guess because I was more mature in the mind. Because at that time, girls were too silly for me, and I just it. But when you have been touched, when you have been violated, your whole mindset is warped. So everything you think about love, everything is warped. You're looking out of stained stained glasses or broken glasses. It's like you, when you're touched or when you have been violated, you tend to you're in pieces. So you go through life trying to piece yourself together, but you end up piecing together somebody that you don't even know. And so you're in and out of relationships with people who really don't suit you, don't fit you. But because you don't want to be alone, you stay in the relationship, whether it's abusive or not. And more times than none, it's abusive.
Yeah, I get that. I can really relate to that. I've had intimacy issues with men for years, and I know that a lot of that trauma was from being sexually abused in my teenage years, and also, you know, at 15, finding my boyfriend sleeping with my best friend in front of me, and that's when I'd been kicked out of home. So I'd also been rejected from the family unit at that point, and the people that were closest to me then, you know, are basically turning against me as well. So it's interesting, you know, and I've never married or had kids, and I'm 50 now. And I've had a series of doozy relationships, I would say. And, you know, now I'm quite happy single at the moment, although, you know, sometimes I would like some companionship. Sometimes it gets a little bit lonely. But I know that there's been that protective barrier of not wanting to get too close because I haven't wanted to get hurt. And often I've found, you know, from online dating over the years too, there's a lot of people say they really want to be in a relationship, but they're actually not conscious that they have this such big fear of being hurt that the minute it starts to get close in that relationship, they just run away. Right. And I see this again and again and again where it's, oh, yeah, I'm open. I really want a relationship. But actually, no, they haven't done the inner work to release that. And, you know, I've done a hell of a lot of work. I've invested at least $1 million in my business personal development since 2005. So nearly 20 years, I've invested so much, and I keep working on myself. And, you know, I keep myself very, very active, and I have some amazing relationships in my life. And nowadays, I don't feel that I need to be in a relationship to feel happy. Whereas I used to feel that for quite some time, that I felt like I needed to be in a relationship because there was also this fear of being alone that I used to have. There was a fear of being alone, but there was a fear of being too close to anyone as well, which was quite a bit of a dichotomy. Ken, what's your experience? Because you're single as well. Have you had a similar kind of situations?
I've never been abused as a kid or anything like that, but I did grow up in a household where I really did not admire or have a good relationship with my dad. So that kind of masculinity part of the relationship just was not there. And when I became a Christian, it got worse. It got worse because it's like the veils were taken off my eyes, and I really saw him for who he was, and for the what's the word I want to use? Hypocrite. that he was. And so I don't know. I'm just single right now because I've just never found the right person. But I think God's just got me on a different journey right now, on a different path. I too, right now, I'm in a point where in my life to where things are finally taking off for me business wise and with my program. And I think if I entered into a relationship with somebody, I think it would end up being, I mean, it would be a fun distraction, but it would be a distraction nonetheless. And I think it would take from the time that I spend in my business and developing it. And so, needless to say, right now, I'm kind of just at a point to where, yeah, I'm enjoying the single life. I really am. And wholeheartedly, like, I like, just the time freedom that I have and just to be able to pretty much do whatever I want to do. And I know when I know my own heart I know that if I found somebody that I really could just pour into, that's exactly what I would do, is just pour into them, because that's just the kind of person I am. So knowing that about myself, yeah, now's just not the good time. It's just not a good time for me to be in a relationship because I've just got too much important stuff on my plate that I want to focus on. And so that's just not, and the other thing too is I'm just kind of like at the point where I'm like, when God wants me to be with somebody, he knows the prayers that I have prayed. He knows who I'm looking for, and he will bring me that person. I most likely will not have kids, which is fine. I'm just, there's a lot of reasons why I really don't have a desire to have kids. One of them, if I'm being transparently honest, it is because I know there still are things inside my heart that I've inherited from my, I don't even like to call him my dad, but there are things that I know inside my heart that I've inherited from him that I still see creep up every now and then. And so part of that is I don't want to impart that on my children. I don't want to be that. And secondly, I'm just, I don't know. It's just, unless God changes my heart, or unless God brings me a woman that just finds a way to change my heart and say, hey, let's adopt somebody, or let's do this and let's do that, I don't want kids. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that.
Fair enough. Well, it's good to notice, like, are these things you're saying, are they driven by fear in any way, right? Like maybe
Yeah,
they,
it's true.
there could be some conscious or unconscious things that we're aware of when it comes to relationships. And one thing's for sure, what I've noticed in the last 20 years or so since social media has come about, really, it was 20 years ago, Facebook started in 2004, right? Exactly 20 years this year.
Something like that, yeah.
And also, we've had online dating sites. Now, since online dating sites have come about, things have changed drastically with relationships. Like my parents literally on the weekend, they just celebrated their 54th wedding anniversary. And my dad has honored his vows with my mum. She's got dementia. She's 80, he's 86. He cares for her full time. And he said, when I gave my wedding vows, I promised I would look after your mum, he says, till death do us part. And that's what he's doing. And, I admire that so much. But how much of that now, how often do people give their word to things and they don't honor it, and it becomes a flippant thing where they just go, it just becomes almost like the norm not to honor your word now, or not to honor yourself, or not to honor others, And, yeah, things have changed. Times have changed. What have you noticed, Carolyn, with the changing times around relationships and around the topic of fear?
Well, for me, the last relationship I was in was in 2018, and I was like mid 40s, and I knew that I part of my purpose is to be someone's wife. And so I met a guy, and I went into the relationship with a pure heart. Just, I knew, whether or not we was going to get married. I just, the problem is like you, I like to give my word, and because your word is all you have. And if I give my word, I'm going to almost break my neck to keep it. And so when you are not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone else. You're not honest with God either, even though he already knows the truth. And so when it comes to relationship, really, when the Lord delivered me out of the toxic relationship I was last in, the Lord told me to not get in another romantic relationship with a man. He wanted me to wrap myself in him so that he can pour into me like I've poured into everybody else. So I've been single since 2018. Yes, the thought of being in a relationship is there. But I desire for my husband, whoever God has for me, I want him to come. I don't want to date, because it's too much to think about dating today. It's too, that rises my anxiety up, because you're never meeting the true person. Even when you meet them in person, you're meeting the better version of them first. And then this online dating, I'm just too scared of that.
I've been through the online dating thing, and trust me, it's not. You know what? I even went through a Christian company. I went through eHarmony, and let me tell you, eHarmony. First of all, I've got to say this for them. They are very detailed with what they have you fill out. I seriously, to fill out their little detailed form so they can find me the perfect mate, I felt like I'd just taken some kind of deep psych exam. I literally walked away from that session just so exhausted. I was like, what the hell just happened? What is this? But they have it so detailed because they're really honestly trying to find you the perfect mate. And then honestly, I kept coming across these people and these women, these ladies, and I remember there's a couple of them had the perfect profiles, everything in line, the Christianity beliefs, all of it was perfect. It was wonderful. We initiated contact and we were following their system back and forth, what we were supposed to do. Okay, now you've done this, here's what's next, da 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 da. And then I'd get like maybe stage 4 or 5 right before you get to the point to where you're actually free to communicate with them on a free basis, not through their system. And they would close their profile. And the reason they listed was other. What the hell does that even mean? And why? Yeah. I mean, so I got out of eHarmony and I just decided, I think it was after that, I just decided, Lord, when you want to bring me somebody, you'll go and bring me somebody. I'm not worrying about it anymore.
Yeah, nicely said. And I often say, if you don't have issues before you start online dating, you probably will by the time you finish online dating. And this is where I say, be committed, not attached to what you want, right? And the way I look at it now, every now and then I'll hop on a dating site and I'll just think to myself, I'm just here to meet new, interesting people. I have no expectations, because people go hot and cold all the time. And then there's all the wedding proposals and people who love you on Facebook who've never met you before. Right. So then, we get all of those ones as well. So now the new online dating is Facebook or Instagram nowadays. Now, this is not an open invitation for everyone watching this or listening to this to send us a wedding proposal. You always want to go on a date first. Okay. So I do recommend, guys, that you ask a lady out on a date before wanting to go in the sack with her, and vice versa, the other way around. Okay, get to know people, build that friendship before you jump into the sack together, because it'll never last if you just have sex too quick. Okay, and this is the thing, is that this is very closely related to our topic on breaking up with fear, because at the base of anything in life where you are not fully fulfilled, where you do not have full self-expression and freedom, there will be some fear there. And when we get conscious to the fear that is there, then we can actually move through it, transcend it, get to the other side, have the breakthrough. And at the end of every breakdown, there's always a breakthrough. So hang in there for the ride. Now, we do need to wrap up this show shortly.
Before we wrap up, though, I've got to go on a short rant. So you mentioned Facebook and how people use that now as a dating thing.
Yes.
I want to speak for a couple of minutes and go on to a little rant. Something that just really frustrates me, especially at a time where I'm actually trying to build my Facebook profile for my business, because my original main Facebook account got hacked and I never got it back. And so let me tell you this. If you are watching this show right now and you're hearing this and you are one of those ladies or girls or whatever that reaches out to me via Messenger, friends request me, reaches out to me via Messenger, and all I get is this little hi. And I look at your profile and you're this young, petite little girl thingy that's there. And I know what you're doing. No, you're not fooling anybody. People don't like it. Stop it. It's annoying. It wastes time. And I'm tired of my inbox being full of, number one, bots that are pretending to be people. And number two, these young girls that are reaching out, and I don't even respond to them. It's, you know what they're after. All they do is they send you a message going hi or hey. And it's like, no, I don't even want to go hey back, because I'm looking at your photo. I'm looking at what you look like. You're not my ideal client, and I know what you're after. So anyhow, that is my rant. Please stop it.
Exactly, Ken. I love that. And please, ladies or gentlemen, if you're pretending to be these ladies, put some friggin' clothes on, will you? I don't want to see your boobs and your bum, and I don't want to see you in doggy style. I don't want to see you with your G-string hanging up your ass. I don't want to see any of it, okay? So just stop it. Exactly, Ken. Just friggin' stop it, okay? We know you're scammers, okay? And if you really want us to believe you're not a scammer, then let's get on a video call, and I don't want to see your bum, and I don't want to be doing OnlyFans and paying you $30 to see you wiggle your ass around or wiggle your tits around. Okay, let's just get real about this. Is just friggin' ridiculous. Or men swinging their bits around. I don't care. I don't care. We want to get to know you as people. Let's connect human to human, not bot to bot. And let's move on, shall we? Now back to you, Carol.
Yeah, Carolyn was having a good old time in there. She's like laughing.
I don't think I can come behind that.
Not literally come behind. We were talking about doggy
That's
style.
because she knows. Carolyn knows. She's probably experienced it too.
Those are horror stories to me. I honestly have not experienced that. And those are the very reasons why I don't even want to deal with that type
Carolyn,
of thing.
I'm sorry to tell you, if you're building your business and you're building on a social media, they're coming. They're coming for you.
Oh yeah, they're coming.
They've already have. I have so many men. Yeah, I'm like, I just ignore it. I
Oh
just
my gosh.
ignore
Yeah,
it.
I do too. I don't even respond to them. Anyhow, back to Aldwyn, back to what she was saying. We've got to wrap up. And so let's start wrapping up.
Yes, let's start wrapping up. And by the way, the women have been approaching me too, Ken. It's not just the men, or maybe they're men pretending to be women or women. Look, who knows nowadays? I mean, no one knows if they're men or women or what the hell they identify with anymore. So, whatever it is, I send you much love. Okay, this is about coming to love and presence and gratitude for everything in our life, and letting go of the fear. So, in saying that, Carolyn, now how can people work with you? Not work with you physically, like as in like work your body, but like work with you in business. One track mind.
Well, I am on Facebook. I'm on several social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And I have put the Facebook business link in there. My book is on Amazon, and I do a lot of networking events. So like you, I meet a lot of interesting people, not having not going in there looking for relationships or anything. But when it comes to people finding me, they can find me on social media. Um, I enjoy meeting new people as well. Um, but there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if people just search you as well, I've just popped your LinkedIn up there. So Carolyn J. Murphy, and Carolyn's with a Y, Carolyn, then a J, and then Murphy. They'll find you on LinkedIn there. Also Facebook, just do a search, they'll find you there as well. And do you have a favorite quote or motto that you'd like to share with us today?
Yes, your purpose is greater than the pain.
Your purpose is greater than the pain. That's beautiful. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much. It's been amazing having you as our guest today. Now over to Ken. How can people connect with you?
All right. Well, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. But before I share my links really quick, I want to talk about something briefly. So you've heard me mention in today's show, which I was mentioning it for other purposes. It wasn't meant to be a plug, but now it is, that I have a mini boot camp, breaking free from the industry lies and diets for lasting change. In this mini boot camp series, I am giving away my 3 secrets to sustainable weight loss, to stop the hamster wheel dieting, to conquer your battle with sugar, to empower you to be able to keep the weight off for life, for good, like I have for 6+ years now, in just 3 short one-on-one sessions with me. I'm giving away 3 powerful secrets. You'll be equipped with an empowered mindset shift. You will be equipped to spot food industry lies and avoid the common pitfalls. And thirdly, you will be equipped to see past the deceptive marketing that the food companies use and make more informed choices around your food, all in just a 2.5-week span. I also include in-depth booklets for each session. Even my co-host is in my boot camp and has made some staggering aha moments.
Yes.
And so how you can come on board my boot camp, which it's only $75, and it's worth, according to somebody that I talked to earlier today, it is worth $1,000. That's her words, not mine. And how you can connect into my boot camp is through my actual website. And so you just go to www.masteryweightloss.com, spelled exactly the way it sounds, /mini boot camp. Mini is spelled MINI, boot camp. There you go. It can't get any more simpler than that. All right. And then how to connect with me further and, get to know me, send a message to me, my Facebook. So www.facebook.com. You all know that. I don't need to spell it out, even if you're listening to on audio. And then it's /mastery weight loss. It can't get any easier than that. So there you go.
Thank you so much, Ken. And what's your quote you'd like to share with us today?
I wasn't necessarily prepared with a quote. I didn't have a chance. I was just so engaged with the conversation. So I am actually, and I do think this applies very, very much to our discussion today. So I'm going to share my staple quote, which I love. And plus, the person who did this quote, he's my hero. Think of him however you want, but he's my hero. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation, by Donald J. Trump.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken. And I want to say hello before I share my links to people that have been joining us on the live stream. We've got Francesca Orlando here. Hello to all. Hello, Francesca, on Facebook there, on Instagram. We have Adaptive WLCW has joined us, Gregory Twist, John Perry, Snowy Olani, and Hafiz Muhammad have joined us on Instagram. And for those who've joined us also on LinkedIn, YouTube, I can't see all of you here, so please do let us know where you are joining us from and what you've got out of this show today. Let us know if you've enjoyed it, what you've thought of it, if you have any questions, if you think there's someone that could really benefit from this, please share the love. And for those who now want to connect with me, all my links are at my linktree/Aldwyn. So if you go linktr.ee/Aldwyn, you will see in there at the very top, I have a free webinar coming up called How to Build a Global Brand. And it's on August 23, Australian Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m., which will be August 22 for our friends in America. It will be your night time over there on August 22. And that's going to be an amazing webinar where I share how to build your brand through mass media exposure and other ways that I actively practice myself. Also, we have a global good news challenge that happens every single month. And we just had the 6th annual Good News Day last week. In fact, last Thursday was the 6th annual Good News Day on the 8th of the 8th. And every month we have a global good news challenge where we share gratitude and good news. This is free for you to participate in. The link is in there. Just check out the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page and all the details are in there. It's free marketing. We add you to a private group. You can win prizes. It's amazing. You get into gratitude. You will help shift that fear that has been going on for you by getting into gratitude. Highly recommend you check that out. And a whole lot of other free resources, all my socials. So connect with me wherever you'd like to connect with me over there. And my quote today I'm going to share is this one. The brave person is not the person who does not feel afraid, but the person who conquers that fear. And this is another great one. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. There's some great quotes there around fear. Now, as we wrap up here, any other final words, Ken, Carolyn, before we wrap up this live stream today and this amazing show? Final words from you.
I don't have any. Carolyn?
Well, the quote, what came to me was curiosity, or consistency creates curiosity.
Yes.
And that came to me because being consistent in whatever you do. And for me, when it comes to this business, my brand awareness, being consistent in me networking and posting. So as I continue to be consistent in those things, the people begin to get curious of me and begin to find me. Yes. So your consistency creates curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. That's an awesome quote. Thank you so much, Carolyn. It is a wrap for our show, Total Truth Show, episode 76. Oh my gosh, we're going to be at 100 before we know it, Ken.
I know, right? We got to do something special for episode 100.
We're going to do something special. And we still haven't met in person yet, but we will be doing that one day, I'm sure. The truth about breaking up with fear. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to now give you all the clap. Yay! Well done. Another great show. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. We'll see you again next time here on Total.